you. Thank you for joining us here. So, without much ado, let me dive to the beautiful book of poems, Rhapsody Roads, written by Ravi. So, Ravi, you wear multiple hats of a political cartoonist, journalist, fiction writer, and now poet with this book. So, what has been the journey of transition like for you from fiction to poetry?
Well, I wouldn't call it a transition because I think poetry is everywhere. Poetry, if I'm not a poet as much as you're not a poet, I'm a poet as much as all of you are poets because I think everybody is a poet at heart. And if you look at paintings, you say, what a poetic looking painting, or it's a poetic, a lyrical work of fiction. I mean, it's an oxymoron because lyrical and fiction are two different things. You see poetry in that, you see poetry in everything. So it was not a difficult transition, I would put it, but it was an interesting transition.
How do you see the effort in terms of creative energy for fiction and poetry? Are they different for you? How would you like to describe it?
How would I like to describe the connect?
The energy and the process.
Right, right. Poetry takes a lot of condensation. I mean, it's fiction allows you more time, more words, unless you're Homer or somebody. So, you know, unless you're doing, on an epic proportion, which you can do with a novel, it's very difficult, I think, to do with poetry. And as far as I'm concerned, it was like it was a revelation because, I mean, if you look at the whole philosophical aspect of writing fiction, or anything which is comes from the imagination, when it kind of marries with words, it all depends on the canvas, how big the canvas is. But what I like to experiment with is reduction. You just reduce things, and I mean, so poetry in many ways is a reduction of highly complex things. Um, you know, I would, I would like to. Um Let me find my phone. Oh, my phone is with that child. Sorry, I think you've written that. Thank you. So I'd kind of read you a couple of poems, which is. Okay, here we go. Now, these are very short ones, but which are meant to compress very complex ideas. This poem is called Secret. It says, I hold you. I hold you in a dark place because you're a creature of the night, as is a nightingale. So, you're compressing the whole concept of love, you're compressing the whole concept of the darkness of the human soul, and you're also kind of looking at the beauty of the nightingale song, so it's almost like a song of death. And, now, this is a very different kind of condensation because it talks about, I mean, it's about the serendipity of falling in love and it's about the serendipity of finding a person. At the same time, the coincidence of, external forces, how it all comes together. So this poem is called Serendipity. It says a poem looking for a poet, found a girl, looking for a lover, and wrote itself. So love has its own dynamic. I mean, its own kind of kinetics. So it kind of moves on. And again, you have, I was reducing a very complex kind of, thing into 4 words. And what really challenges me is the Sufi and the Zen concept, 2 different things.
There's a lot of interplay of light and shadow in your poems.
Yeah, because I really believe that there are shadows in everyone's heart. I mean, the purest. Look at St. Francis of Assisi. I mean, the man started with so much of darkness in his life, but when he kind of moved on, I mean, and became this very austere kind of saint or whatever he was. So there was an interplay, unless there was an interplay of light and darkness in your life, or let's say his life, he wouldn't have become what he was, So I think everybody is born with light and shadow. Where you choose to stand is what defines you. you know.
Some of your poems also, have this unfiltered, raw emotions.
Hmm.
For example, the poem "The Last Train Out" or the poem "Again." It's emotionally very unfiltered and very
Okay.
honest. So, how do you navigate this space in your writing?
It's actually like this poem I read out. I mean, it writes itself. You know? I don't believe in pursuing a concept. I think that it's much better to observe it, watch it kind of unfold. And, there's poetry in everything, everything. I remember this Einstein saying that there is poetry in the absolute concept of mathematics. So if you can find poetry in mathematics, which it exists, so I mean, just look at the amount of poetry which exists in different spaces. So your question was asking how one.
Yes, this very emotionally unfiltered rawness in your poetry.
Oh, okay. It was not intended, that way, but yes, it is. I'm not a particularly reserved man. I normally don't keep my mouth shut. So I suppose that reflects in your because I believe that if you live, you should live passionately. I mean, you should kind of have a life without regrets because you lived it to the full. So I think the personality of the person who's doing it, the artist or the poet or the writer, it reflects us in his work or her work. So that I suppose is the
Just
most.
to take on from here, there is also, there is this balance. There is tenderness on one hand, and on the other hand, there is a certain kind of dismissiveness. When you hold something very intimate, you also tend to, keep it apart at a distance. So,
Yeah,
would you like to
right.
speak?
I mean, no, I know because there is as much as there is tenderness in love, there is a lot of darkness in it. As much as there is cruelty in love or life, there is salvation in it. If you remember the movie Schindler's List, I mean, it was enough. I mean, he couldn't save everyone in Auschwitz. I mean, even if we could get 20 people out, 30 people out, that was light falling on a great darkness, right? Now, I don't mean to kind of take it into that kind of dimension, but if you look at that, I'm reading a small poem. You is a word I don't particularly like because everyone is a you. Then there is you, whom I particularly like. And when it's you being you, I love you. So, you are looking at the in any relationship or in any kind of situation. Uh, I mean, you love the person absolutely because that is the person who matters to you the most, who occupies your space the most. And it's never even. Nobody is even, right? And there are things you don't like about somebody, or there are things which are not liked in you. But there is something which holds it together. And that is a play of both light and darkness. Sometimes somebody helps you to get out of the darkness. Sometimes somebody wants to go into the darkness. So you can't help the interplay of both in life. So that's what I think.
There are also a lot of personal memories woven into your poems, like this poem, Random Roads. A
Yeah.
part of it beautifully weaves in this countryside, the rice fields.
Yeah.
So, would you like to tell us how perhaps your childhood memories? Uh,
Yeah.
in,
Yeah. But the thing is that, frankly speaking, I mean, if I consider myself a reader, I get bored with people talking about their own lives. I mean, it's kind of, I'm not interested in you. How do you assume that you're such an interesting person that I want to hear about or read about your life? I mean, what are you? Okay, so I avoid doing that. I don't think one should inflict oneself on people, one's memories which are private. Or, I mean, why would I want to bother about it? I don't want to listen to body stories, okay? But this is an exceptional poem because it does have certain images which are part of my mind, images of childhood. And the reason I wrote that, I suppose, is because they don't exist anymore. Yeah? Because I grew up in this village, and The house was right in the middle of a huge, vast kind of swath of green paddy fields. In Kerala, we have this, black palmyra trees, which are like, we call it perimbana. And the superstition was that the yakshis used to live on top of that, right? And would kind of, catch all the chappies who kind of going that way and drink the blood and throw their
The blood
bones
sucking.
down. Yeah, yeah. So, and then there was the Western Ghats, like far away. So it was a beautiful, I mean, like it's like a painting. And I remember looking at it, whenever I would be a kid, I'd be standing outside and watching. I mean, accidentally, not just standing and watching it. I like, no, I mean, what you see, not watch.
That scenery is, I think, if I can say, more like I mean, those who are unfamiliar with the Western Ghats, more like the Wild West movies.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Uh, so there was this road which is an unpaved road. I mean, you can't imagine in the 1970s that you could have a road which is unpaved. And there are a lot of memories, I mean, second-hand memories associated with it, because I remember my grandfather, my grandfather bought a car and he was driving down and he honked because my great-grandmother was walking and he wanted to give her a lift. So she'd never seen a car before. She jumped into the field. So, I mean, like, he started honk. The first time in your life you're hearing some roar of an engine or purr of an engine or honk. I mean, anyway. So it's all collective memories. So then, a couple of years ago, when I went to Kerala, I asked my brother about this place. He said, listen, that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, the whole thing has changed. I said, impossible to change such a landscape. He said, no, it's changed. So I said, let's go for a drive. And I went for that drive. The road wasn't there. The fields weren't there. Our old house was demolished. I mean, my grandfather sold it and father, I don't remember who. So change is two. One, in your head, things don't change, because it lives there. It lives there as long as you die. And there's a poetry in that. There's a kind of doomed poetry in that. And at the same time, there is a geography you navigate, which is part of your life. How you drive your car, how you walk down a road. So that is a loss. While this is like a fixed deficit. I mean, it doesn't move. So how you negotiate, you asked about the light and darkness previously. So this is the negotiation you do, and the negotiation you do as you move on. How do I negotiate my memories, or the reality of today? So that's about it.
And then there is also this shift from small poems to longer poems.
Yeah.
So would you like to read a poem for us? Maybe have it also displayed.
Let me see where it is. Thank you for your patience. Okay. No, I think I sent you.
The Last Visitors.
Yeah. Last visitors. Sorry, bear with me. What's the page number, do you remember? No. Sorry about this. Sorry, yeah. Okay, now I'm going to impose two poems on him. And both are on death. There is death which is heartbreaking, and there is death which is heartbreaking tender in many ways, and there is death which is very brutal. So I'm reading you the brutal one. It's called The Last Visitors. A man in black wearing a hoodie is what I was told. But it was a woman in white who visited me in the hospital and gave me a white puppy, which would follow me through the endless whiteness, I holding her hand. His hands have black nails, I was told. Her hand was warm with pretty red nails. His breath is cold, I was told. Hers smelt of peppermint and fresh apples as we walked through the endless whiteness, me holding my puppy close. His heart is full of black hate, I was told. She stroked my hair gently, softly, wrapped me in her white, warm coat, laid me down on a furry rug and tucked me in safe and warm, blew me a kiss and walked away. I held the pup close and watched him come, all dressed in black, with cold hands, black nails, and wintry breath. and she came back with him. So, thank you. So then you have, this. Oh, okay, thank you. This is all the. Yeah. Now this is a story. This is a poem about a man who's lost his wife. If I lean you against the tree of life, on the soft slope of a misty hill, where my breath pools around you like a lost explorer's cloak, will you tell me why I cannot kiss the world away? If I hold your pale fingers as I would hold a solemn promise, and scrape its nails along my cheek, leaving a precious scar in this abandoned hour, will you tell me why I cannot take back the cloudy day? Why you came back to me without the white shroud I wrapped you in? The pines stand straight and stoic with the solemnity that marks new widowers. We had walked these little mountain roads, collected pine cones and picnicked in the woods of longing. I ate buttered scones off your mouth, had you laid you down on the soft white grass, and wrapped your pale body with the sunset. I still keep your generous heat, wrapped in the tattered kerchiefs of marooned memory. Will you tell me why, when I lean you against the tree of life again, I feel cold and uncertain like a rain without a sky? So, thank you. No, you don't have to clap. So, so you have this, how you interpret. No, neither of these are autobiographical. But I know people who have lost people. I know people who have lost things and which are precious to them. And they see it in two different ways, So there is tenderness in loss, there is anger in loss, there is resignation and fear in death. So I kind of, reflect. I put a mirror against a mirror and said, okay, well, let me see what happens. So that's right.
And then there are also poems which are richly surreal. For example, the poem Queen. It has a dreamlike tension in it. Would you like to tell us a little more about how this poem came to be written? If you could.
No, I'll have to see which one it is.
85. Page number 85.
Okay. If I don't, I know people get into trouble when they write anything mythological, but this actually is a poem on Sita, Sita is usually visualized as this, kind of, not a very brave woman. She's not like Draupadi, who would kind of, take up 5 husbands and say, okay, Sita is generally, is as this helpless woman who's get kidnapped, at least as the way I say it, and, taken away by Ravan and kept imprisoned in that place, and there's a war over. But she's always been not a powerful figure which, forget about domination, is even equal to Ram. It's not like Kali and Shiva, where there is a kind of an exchange and the osmosis of power between them. So I saw her as someone who's actually grieving the war. The same war which came to rescue her. Says, after the war, fleeing through the ruined gates of her heart's complications, she finds herself in a city of grieving ghosts. Fathers and sons, kings and princes, nameless messengers and careless spies all skied down in the illicit appetency of a fallen monarch. So she's seeing I'm reimagining her as, passing through the gates. And I see her passing through it's like, you see the photographs of, of war, as one person, walking out. And if you really look at it, it's a pretty nasty war. The Ramayana war, because they had missiles and all kinds of stuff, which really raised the thing. And so now, I want to kind of, try how to, we purify our icons. We laminate them with such virtue that is annoying. if you're a real person who's living character in a story, I mean, you can't. So I've said the drums are quiet on the battlefield of metaphors, soaked in the splendid blood of an austere author's mind. So only somebody who's so austere in imagination, like a warrior, can write something like this. So that is how it came about. You know, she recalls the enchanted chariot of the sky, now ownerless and unyoked. Remembers touching cotton candy clouds, soft and subtle like the volume of loving phantoms, and the musky warrant of her abductor's desire, seducing her to save her sensual solitude. I mean, So I see this woman who's enchanted with, I mean, it would be impossible not to be enchanted by, when you're kind of flying for the first time in your life. And he actually imprisons in a beautiful, prison. So there is the moral ambiguity of a female prisoner in a beautiful location. At the same time, there is anger at the war. So that is how the Queen came about. I hope I don't get stoned now.
Ravi, we also had a conversation about this poem of yours, Awakening. So when we spoke about that poem, there is this part in that poem where a little boy is being given a bath by his mother, and in that context, you also recall the Papanashini River. So
Yeah,
would you
that
like to
by
tell
my
us a bit more
See,
about this poem?
I'll just condense the poem for you. I won't read from it. I believe, I would say God sounds damn pompous, but I believe that purity lies in very small things, not in grand things, because grand things takes a lot of time to build. So again, my philosophy of condensation, purity is condensation. So I was reimagining this massive festival, full of pomp and ceremony and good and bad and pickpockets and kings and politicians and everybody. Let's imagine this massive festival on a river. And it's almost like a carnival. It's almost like a Coldplay concert of God. So then I thought, where is the purity in such kind of energy? So I imagined what lies beyond the river. And if you travel by rivers, especially in smaller towns or villages, you'll find old temples, by the river. So in this poem, there's a mother who's bathing in a ghat. No, that's too long to read. There's a mother who's bathing in a ghat, and a little boy is, by the stone steps of the temple. And she says, come and have a bath. She finds it's too cold. So, and remember, this huge orchestra, this huge festival is going just maybe a few miles down the road. And she's telling her, so she's not sensitive to that, and she's not aware of that. And the boy's not aware of that. And then eventually he jumps in, shivers, and starts kind of pouring water at her, playing. And then what happens, a small temple bell rings up there. And the purity of the sky, the purity of that, So I was looking at the simplicity of devotion. How simple devotion can be. So that is the essential thing of this thing. And
a very striking feature of your book is also usage of technology in its finest form. Whether it be the illustrations or whether the poems which are being set to music.
Yeah, see, I'm not supposed to kind of play this song because people are already leaving, because they probably heard that the song was going to come on. But jokes apart, I like playing with technology. My question to technology is, why not? Why can't this happen? Okay, you're telling me this can happen, but tell me this cannot happen. That's something which I've followed through my professional, through my career, that, someone tells me, says, no, this can't be done. I say, why can't it be done? Find a way to do it. So it intrigued me that whether I was interested in technology, I still am, and I was interested in AI, which I found, fascinating. I love AI. I don't think it's kind of going to, kill us. So I started kind of, getting the mood of the thing. So I did some art with AI. And then I did some with songs with AI, music with AI. And it's very difficult, not just writing a prompt and putting it on. But are you guys sure you want to listen to the song? Are you sure? Sure? Okay, but I'm not inflicting this on you, sure? Okay. What are you gesturing there? But thankfully, well, I don't think you should play this. I'm very nervous about playing this. This is a poem she was talking about the road which existed when I was a child. It was entirely artificial intelligence.
So we have a very phenomenal experience with the poem set to the music.
This is. I don't know what it can't be or won't be. Does this road lead to you or away from you? Is it the same road by which my mother waited for her bus? Or my father rode his bicycle to buy fish and fresh flowers? Is it the road I remember on which my grandfather strode with his guns and dogs to shoot white storks that sailed over green paddy, and the road on which he was taken away from me? My first grief, it is a road of a million footprints of people I see or don't see and never saw and will ever see, moving to their destinations in today or forever. It is the road that is you, or perhaps not you. All I know is it is a road that is yours. While you pass by a road which leads to another road, and another, and yet another, until the world is sewn together by a million journeys. Yours.
So that's Rhapsody Road for us. It's available in the bookstore, an exponential experience. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you, Smitha. Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you, Bangalore Poetry Festival. Please forgive me.